You're listening to the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast.
Evening. Welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty Show. I'm your host, Kev. You can follow me on X at dynasty_goat. We have got an absolute mega show tonight. We've got a mega guest on tonight. Before that, we're going to introduce you to two mega co-hosts. Well, first of all, come to Mags, who you can follow on X at Hot Seat Mags. Evening, Mags. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks, Kev. Doing really, really well. We're just talking about, the heat even managed to get all the way up to me in Scotland today. So it's a beautiful day to be alive. And nothing better than end of the day with you three fine gentlemen.
What an endorsement that is. That's a lovely thing to say. So yeah, I don't know if you can top that, Ali, but if you do want to follow Ali, you can follow him on X at FF Dynasty Grill. Give us your best shot, Ali.
Not really. I'm not even going to try. Just going to say, yeah, good to see you back, Kev. Great to have our guest on. Fantastic guy. Absolutely smashed it in the community. So yeah, had to be him for the final show of the off season. Looking forward to obviously the start of the NFL season. The college season kicking off was pretty awesome this weekend. So yeah, really pumped for tonight's show.
Indeed, we've got real. Obviously college is real, but the actual NFL action starting with us next week. That's something that's come around so fast and we're all truly excited about from a dynasty point of view. But just to keep it on the college point of view, just want to make an amazing announcement that we will be starting the Fantasy Wildcard Devy show from early in 2024. So that's going to be sort of advice for people that play the Devy leagues to really do well in their fantasy leagues as well. So slightly different from what you see in the community. A lot of college podcasts speak about the actual college football. This is going to be more centered around fantasy. So we're delighted to get this show rolling in 2024. It's going to be hosted by Jordan, Jack, and Phil. You can follow it at Wildcard Devy. Really exciting times. Keeping it as exciting times, though. We'll come on to our amazing guest tonight, shall we? So we have got a legend of the UK community on tonight. Contributor at DLF, UK FFC co-organizer, 50% of the fan and sanctuary. You can say he's the best staff. Maybe Tom will have something else to say about that, but we give a warm wildcard return to Rich Cooley, who you can follow on X at Dynasty Island. Good evening, Rich. Welcome back. How are you doing?
Yeah, evening, gents. Thank you very much for having me. Hard to live up to an intro like that, but very much looking forward to talking some stuff through with you. It should be good fun.
Indeed, and you're absolutely the right person to come on tonight's show because we'll be discussing and talking about winning dynasty titles in 2023. Players you should be targeting to win your dynasty league this season. So there is a bit of a redraft feel to it, but also thinking about winning in dynasty, which is why we should be playing dynasty, not about having sexy rosters. It's about winning ships. I think you're the right man to do that. You've been in leagues with me where you've won it. So yeah, you've got some amazing players to go through as well tonight. So we'll come to play one first of all. Rich, who's the guy that you're targeting to help win your dynasty league this season?
So we'll start with, I guess, probably the hot topic, the hot name in fantasy dynasty circles, in NFL circles at the moment. It's Jonathan Taylor. I think for me, when you sent this topic across, I was sort of thinking about it. Right, if I'm looking at winning a title in a dynasty league, I'm already thinking I'm good enough, built as I am, to make the playoffs. So I'm now not looking for players who are necessarily going to help me weeks 1 to 13, depending on how your league's set up. I'm looking at players that can help me weeks 14 to 17. And to me, if I can get a player that I think fully healthy on the field is a top 3 fantasy running back, but I can get him at a significant discount because people are, for some reason, concerned that there's potential that he might not play this year, I think that that's an absolute smash buy. If I can get him at a discount, I'm getting an elite player for less than I would have to pay 2 months ago in the offseason.
Yeah, I think he's, really, really good to come in. And like you're right, he's going to make the difference come the playoffs. People might be, looking at you a bit funny weeks 1 to 3, but then actually whenever you've got that trophy in your hands at the end of the year, you're, the one who laughs loudest, right? So I think Jonathan Taylor is a great player for that. Finished, running back 33 last year, I think 23 on points per game, but this is a guy not far removed from being the, number one running back overall just 2 years ago. So that is the ceiling that he has. And if you can add that player into your team come playoff time, it's an easy win now piece. And he's actually young enough that it's not just a win this year piece. It's not like he's just going to stop after the playoffs. Next year, he'll be a good piece. Probably a year after that as well. So I think he's a great player to get in your team at running back 8. Yeah, great value.
Yeah, completely agree. Obviously, you just mentioned it there, Mags. Only 24 years old, so he's still in the peak of his career. I do believe that he's going to play this year. Obviously, going to miss the first 4 games. I think that it could be a different type of winner, and I think Rich alluded to it there. At the minute, a lot of people don't want to touch him. They're trying to move off him, worried about this season, especially if you're a contender. Go and buy him now because there is a discount there. And then the second he sees the field, I mean, you can keep him on your roster, or you could even flip him and you can make a profit on what you paid for him right now. So there's different ways to win with Jonathan Taylor this year. I'm really intrigued to see how it works with Anthony Richardson. If it is going to be him staying at the Colts, I think that is really exciting for those two to be on the field together and produce. And I think the Colts need him, so I think they're going to try all they can to try and get Taylor back to help out Richardson this year, because I think Richardson could struggle without him. So yeah, I think it's a great pick to start off the show. And I like the fact you've not gone with a quarterback to mess with Kev's head. So we're not going in order tonight. Keeping it spicy, keeping us all on our toes to see who you pick.
I mean, all I'm going to say is we may have some quarterbacks coming up in a little bit. We'll just have to see how it all unfolds. But yeah, I think this is a guy that we needed to discuss. And Jonathan Taylor, with some great points made. He's been running back 1 before. He's got that ceiling to catapult a very good team to an excellent team, someone that's a big contender. I think I'm slightly more risk averse, whereas I think if I'm a top 1 or 2 team, I can afford to swing on Taylor. And let's say 4 games becomes 6, 6 becomes 8, or he gets traded to a franchise that maybe wants to pay him but aren't sort of going to give him the same volume that he's received, with sort of the move that we've seen with more backfields being split. That would give me more concern being like the 5th or 6th team if I'm good enough to be 1 or 2. But I think if you are 1 or 2, personally, take that swing. Worst case scenario, he misses most of the season. You've got an excellent chance with a 1 or 2 side. But it depends how strong your team is. Like Rich made a great point at the start. If you're a guaranteed top 6 team and maybe there is that potential already on your roster to be a top 2 team, I can't see a problem with that, because obviously dropping in a running back 1 into any team is going to catapult them. So it's a great start to the show. We're going to move on to...
Can I quickly jump in just before we move on? I very quickly just want to say that I think there's a lot of talk about his contract and whether he could miss the whole year. He has to be back playing by week 8. Otherwise, his contract will toll, and therefore he stays on the same contract again next year, and we just play this all over again. So either he is back playing for the Colts by week 8, or he is trading playing somewhere. He loses all leverage if he's not back playing by week 8. So that's where I was saying, I'm not concerned. Even if he takes 2-3 weeks to get up to full speed, he's going to be back playing fully go by week 11, by week 12, because he's playing for a contract at the end of the day. So yeah, he could, even if he held out was on pup for that long, he will be back.
Love a air quoted pup, and that's awesome. And we're going to come on to another guy that we're hoping doesn't go on pup. We're hoping it's a minor injury, but again, someone that can be classed as a league winner. Who's your next guy, Rich? Yeah,
I feel like you can copy and paste basically everything I've said about Jonathan Taylor in terms of targeting that sort of title window, and it's Cooper Kupp. Look, Tom and I have talked about it. Tom's been banging the drum for basically the entire offseason. This guy, when he's on the field, he is a fantasy cheat code. He is the overall wide receiver 1 when he's fully healthy. And I think that, if I can get a slight injury discount at the moment, but then when he's back, he's going to be fully healthy. I've got a superstar that I can get for, as you've got on screen there, wide receiver 2 prices right now. So if I'm swinging for the fences and going for a guy that I think can push me over the top and win me that title, it's got to be Kupp.
Yes,
yeah,
great.
he's. Oh, sorry, Ali, that's my fault.
I mean, you are excited about him, yeah.
So excited.
I'll quickly jump in and just say it's another great pick. Obviously, Kupp, just an elite asset, and keep trade Kupp wide receiver 16. I think that's far too low, because I think he's the type of guy that doesn't win with his speed downfield. So he's not got sort of the Tyreek Hill. If he loses his speed, he's not got that weapon there. And what else has he got? I think Kupp wins in many different ways, especially if you're playing PPR league. He's a cheat code. But yeah, fantastic play, obviously Kupp, and yeah, I think as soon as he comes back, I think the Rams are going to be they're going to be careful with him. Hopefully, he's only going to miss a game or two. I don't think they're going to put him on the field if they feel like he can re-aggravate that injury again. So yeah, Kupp, he outscored every player apart from 2 last year in terms of points per game in Mahomes and Josh Allen. So yeah, he's basically a quarterback, and you've got him in your wide receiver slot. So he's a guy that you should be buying, especially if you feel like you're all in this year. He's a guy that I'm targeting definitely.
Yeah, I mean, he's just someone like he was the wide receiver 1 in points per game last year. It just was unfortunate that he did get injured. It is unfortunate that, if you shimmy around the letters in his name, you can still spell Cooper Pup okay, right? If you shimmy it around, so that is a bit concerning as well for him. But hopefully that's just complete coincidence for him. He's someone, when he's on the field, he's absolutely dynamic. We're hoping that Matthew Stafford's going to be okay as well, because they have breakfast together. So obviously that's a hugely important thing. So hopefully they're both eating granola and other such things to keep them both healthy, and they'll have an excellent season going forward. He's a great contender move. Ali, you're spot on. I don't think he fully relies on that speed, although he's somebody that, you look at his combine numbers and you look at him on the field and you're like, how does that even, he's got faster and faster every year as he's got older somehow, I think. But it's just, can he stay healthy? He's at an age now where he's kind of, you'd think, closing out his career, but he's someone who's an ultimate, win now, buy. And I know I've been trying to sell him in some leagues where I'm trying to rebuild, and you can get him for a first and a second from me, Kev. That's true. But it looks like people aren't willing to pay that. It looks like you might have to sell him for even less if you're holding on to him and you're in a rebuild. Like, you might be able to get him for a first round pick from some places. And I think that's just great, because he's a brilliant piece to help you win now.
Yeah, I like how you did that little bit of sort of making an anagram out of his name. I think another one that's on there is recoup, and I think if you're buying Kupp, then you're going to recoup that value pretty quickly, aren't you? With his ceiling. Look at his metrics from even last season. He had the year before, he had the record-breaking season, but then he was on pace again to do very similar to what he'd done already. So no slowing down. We've seen him have excellent seasons after injury as well. Before the sort of breathtaking season he had another year where he came back from injury and smashed it. So no concerns. There's not a ton of target competition, and the Rams can be playing from behind. So there's lots going in your favour going after Kupp at this price. I think it's a great price, Mags. We may discuss a little bit later on in the season if I can get him off in that particular league. But yeah, I think he's a really interesting guy. A lot of similar thoughts to Jonathan Taylor. I do feel more comfortable with Kupp in the sense that it's an injury, but hamstring injuries can niggle as well. But yeah, I just think, a lot of risk reward, like you mentioned. If you can get him for a first and a little bit extra on top, maybe you give a second and get a third back, or a first and a third potentially, then that's absolutely excellent value. Because I know we shouldn't do it, but if you're getting Kupp, it's going to be a late first more than likely. So really like that. Just a quick question to you, Rich. Obviously these two guys, Taylor and Kupp, very similar in value, situation, copy paste, etc. I just want to know, if you've got a contending team, it's fully balanced, fully set across the board, nice running backs, nice wide receivers. If you had to pick one of these guys with a balanced roster, which one would you prefer out of the two?
I think if we're talking win the title this year, I'm always going the running back. I think if we're talking, I'm looking at a 2-year window or something like that, then I'd go the wide receiver. But for a win now, I must win the title this year. My life depends on it. I'm always taking the running back there.
Love that spice. And we're going to keep it spicy. We're going to obviously Ali teased that we didn't start for QB. We've come to the QBs pretty quickly though. So Rich, who's your first QB that you're looking to buy in winning titles this season?
Yeah, so we've talked about, I guess, two studs that we know are studs that are slightly depreciated in their value. This next guy is a guy that I think is going to take that leap, and that's Trevor Lawrence. I think that through 2 years, we can throw out that first year, the Urban Meyer stuff. It was a joke, but the growth he showed from year 1 to year 2, and even through that season last year, was massive. I think that he is every bit the generational prospect that we had to hear for 6 months building up to the draft. I think that he does everything well. His ability to process is phenomenal. And the one gap in his game that he's shown through those first 2 years is the ability to kind of push the ball downfield. We've seen that he's been elite between the numbers in that kind of 5 to 20 yard zone, but pushing the ball downfield 20 yard plus, he's been average, which isn't bad, but I think that's the next step he needs to take to be a true fantasy superstar. And now we bring in a true wide receiver 1, Calvin Ridley, who 2.5 years removed from leading the league in targets, reception yards of 20 plus yards downfield or more. And I think that they're going to combine and this offense is going to be truly unlocked. And I really expect this entire Jags offense to take a huge step forward. And I think that this time next year, from an NFL perspective, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a second-tier quarterback alongside Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. I think from a fantasy perspective, I think he's going to, again, be in that, probably not the Allen Mahomes Hurts tier, but I think he's definitely going to be belonging in that second tier alongside Joe Burrow.
I think Trevor Lawrence is just, you're right, Rich, every bit of this generational talent that we thought we were going to get. And sometimes it's like he's like part of Scooby-Doo and the gang, right? Because he turns like these wide receivers that he's turning in, like Christian Kirk's a good player, but the way he made him look last year, I'm expecting him to like pull off a mask and it's Cooper Kupp underneath it, right? It's just, he's turning these sort of okay players into fantasy. Like Zay Jones was fantasy relevant last year. You could play him in a flex spot and you might have been okay. Like Evan Ingram had been in a wasteland for years until he was up with Trevor Lawrence again. So this guy's really, multiplying every bit of talent all around him. And you're right, now he's got Calvin Ridley. I think he's really going to take another step forward from, he finished quarterback 8 last year, so there's not too much room to go up, but I fully believe he can get up to that, 6th spot where he is now, keep trade cut, and he might even sneak up into that sort of tier 2, you would call it, just behind your Hurts and Mahomes and your Allen. He's probably going to be right up there with Justin Herbert if he's not already, and he's going to be in that conversation with who would you rather, Lawrence or Herbert.
Yeah, I think you're both spot on, to be honest. And it's interesting because you do a startup in the off season knowing that Calvin Ridley's on the team now. We know how good he's been, and Trevor Lawrence still seems to go at the back of the quarterback run. And once Trevor Lawrence is taken, it seems if it's either him after Justin Fields, then people turn to the wide receivers and the running back. So I do think there's every chance that it can be flipped this time next season, and Trevor Lawrence is definitely in that tier with Justin Herbert, who I expect to have a big season. Trevor Lawrence looked so comfortable last year. Hopefully he can have at least that floor of terms of rushing as he did last year. I think he had 5 touchdowns, not a lot of rushing yards, so perhaps like to see that go slightly up. But yeah, the weapons are there, the offense is there. It's exciting times, and you can probably get him at a discount if we're saying that he's going to finish perhaps a top 5, top 6 quarterback, and he's going to be in that second tier. Then yeah, there's still room to buy him right now.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's just funny. Urban Meyer was caught off camera, wasn't he, messing around again on one of the college shows this weekend when he should have been actually filming. He was chatting up some birds. So keep going, Urban, you Urban legend. But I think with Trevor Lawrence, make some great points. You can see a clear trajectory. You've seen previous seasons. Herbert made the leap with a great season. Burrow's made the leap with a great season. It's very simple that Trevor Lawrence is going to be a really safe, easily projectable asset. I think if you're maybe the third or fourth team in your league, he's absolutely going to put you over the top. I think if you're the fifth or sixth team in your league, you're looking to buy. I prefer going a little bit lower than Lawrence, going for someone like a Lamar, like a Fields, just for that monster ceiling. But Trevor Lawrence, if everything clicks for him, Justin Herbert had a QB2 season on the back of pass volume. I can't see a reason why Trevor Lawrence can't do something similar, QB2, QB3. If things fall his way, if there's maybe a couple of, we don't want it, but a couple of injuries at the top with Hurts, Allen, Mahomes, why can't he be a top 2 QB in fantasy? Only slight reservation I've got is the Jags in that division. I think they're going to walk the division. How many games will he be needing to be that pass volume? The flip side is he's been QB 17 targets the past 2 seasons. So I think from a neutral game script, they are going to continue to be pass heavy under Peterson, who's always been analytically smart. But yeah, great pick with Lawrence. He's someone that's really safe, and you can see an excellent ceiling for him in the future as well. We're going to keep it at QB. Trevor Lawrence is a guy that I'm not massive on. I do like him, but not as much as somebody else around him. This next guy, oh my God. I love this dude. Who have you got, Rich?
Yeah, so it's Geno Smith. I can't get my head around the value, if I'm being brutally honest. This is a guy that was a top 6 quarterback last year. We saw him, not get a massive contract, but he's under contract for at least this year and potentially next year. And they've added more weapons to the offense. And yet he's currently going as a back-end QB2 in terms of dynasty value. And it's like everybody talks about, it's become a bit of a trope of mine that QB age is massively overrated in dynasty circles. And I think that we lust after this quarterback that's going to be my starting quarterback for 10, 15 years. But actually, Geno Smith's got the potential to be a QB1 for the next 2 years. And that's insanely valuable. Yet you're getting him at QB 21 in current values. The addition of JSN, I think, makes that a very scary 3 wide receiver set. I think they've added Zach Charbonnet, that to me is a really sneaky boom for Geno Smith, because I think that his kind of solid will take what the offense has blocked for him type of running style will allow the Seahawks to stay on train and keep the chains moving, rather than the boom bust style of Kenneth Walker. Plus, Charbonnet is a very competent, I'm not going to say he's great, but he's a competent receiving back out the backfield. So I think that, to me, I'm expecting Geno Smith to take a step forward from what he was last year. And he was the QB6 last year. So, yeah, if he's taking a step forward and I can get him as a back-end QB2, then I'm very excited.
Yeah, this is music to my ears. Geno Smith is the guy that I've been targeting the most in terms of the quarterback over the off-season, just because of the people still trying to fade him because of whether they think it's a one-season wonder and he's not done it throughout his career, whether it is the age. Quarterback 21 is criminal. And I really kicked myself in the latest startup that I'd done. I was the number 1 slot, couldn't trade it away, so I picked Mahomes. And then I went for Bryce Young on the 2-3 turn. And then I thought, why am I doing that? I'm going for a win now piece in Mahomes. And then I've picked Bryce Young when Geno Smith was there on the next turn, and I thought, bloody hell, I should have taken him as my quarterback too, and would have been a much stronger position to be in. But yeah, he allows you to be able to pick him late on in drafts and just pick up so many studs throughout the process. So Geno Smith, yeah, quarterback 6 last year. I think he's going to every chance that he can reach sort of almost that again this year, just because of the pieces that he's got around him. And yeah, JSN is amazing. So adding him into the mix, you got to believe they're going to go 3 wide receivers set most of the time. And yeah, hopefully he's going to cook.
Yeah, that is insane to me. Like, yeah, quarterback 21 for someone who's, ever since he arrived at, Seattle, he's looked really good. I know Pete Carroll gets a lot of stick for, just wants to run the ball and smash it. But this is now like the second starting quarterback he's had that he's made look a lot better than perhaps what they are. I mean, Richie obviously know about Geno's time at the Jets, and he never looked as good as he did, under Pete Carroll. And we're seeing what Russell Wilson looks like now away from Pete Carroll. Maybe this guy's like a sneaky quarterback whisperer that nobody ever realized, right? He's absolutely smashing it, and his accuracy is the big thing. And I mean, you put accuracy together now with the weapons he had last year, plus Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's going to be open a lot. yeah, I can see a repeat of this quarterback 6 performance again, and to get that a quarterback 21 for a guy that's 32. I mean, you said he could be quarterback 1-2 more years. It could be more. You don't know what these quarterbacks like. They seem to go on for forever. So there's a lot more left in the tank for Geno. So yeah, I think that's great value.
Yeah, I mean, Pete Carroll's done it with 2 QBs. Bill Belichick's done it with 1. He's not been able to do it without Tom Brady. So maybe Pete Carroll's better than Bill Belichick. Calm down, Patriots fans. I do say it tongue in cheek, but one for you to ponder. Getting back to Geno Smith, though, I think it's great how you've come on, Rich. Jets fan, we all know you're a Jets fan. You've got a sneaky sort of Jets guy in there, which I do love. Geno Smith, though, him and Kirk Cousins are the biggest QB values for me. When you look at keep trade cut the market there in the 20s, it's wild. But agree, Geno Smith, he's got a really safe floor. He's got a really nice seal as well. This situation is absolutely fantastic, like you mentioned. And you made a great point on Kenneth Walker. You're not going to be ending up in many 2nd and 14s with Charbonnet in your backfield, are you? So yeah, I think great points all around. Geno Smith, a guy that we all love here at Fantasy Squad Card, and I think it's an absolute excellent selection. I think Geno Smith is a QB2. That's good enough for me. If you've got him as QB3, that's money as well that you can make some sort of pivot from either one of the other guys or whatever needed. But I still see it in existing leagues as well. You put Geno on I've got loads of Geno, by the way, but you put him on the trade block. People don't really want to know. And there's a lot of the community that's missing out on such a talented guy. But look, if we think it, if Rich thinks it, you know what to do, people. So yeah, we're going to move on to the next player that Rich is targeting to win titles in 2023, and we're going to come to the running backs. Rich, who have you got?
Yeah, so it's Aaron Jones. This is, I feel like we can keep talking about this. It's another guy that produced fantastically last year, yet is being undervalued again. I can never quite get my head around how people play Dynasty and how they value running backs, because everybody says, I play in 2 to 3 year windows. I play in 2 to 3 year windows. And yet it comes to running backs and they're talking about 4 or 5 year career spans. And it's like, okay, well, if you play in a 2 to 3 year window, Aaron Jones, he's probably going to be a back end RB1 this year. He's probably going to be on a different team, or, the Packers may restructure his contract and keep him around. He's probably going to have some decent value next year. Yet we value him as a back end RB2. And I just can't get my head around it. This is a guy that was the running back 8 last year in points. Yet we're now moving to an offense where we're probably going to see the average depth of target in the entire offense drop, because I think Jordan Love is going to be a little bit more check down happy than a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who was pushed the ball downfield. And we've also got a guy who's a first year starter. I think that this offense is going to run through Aaron Jones. And I think that, as I said, we can get a back end RB1 for RB2 prices. So yeah, for me, this is another guy that I'm consistently targeting if I'm trying to win titles this year.
I mean, literally word for word, what I was going to say. Like, honestly, it's like going through my notes, like, yeah. That was one of the points I wanted to bring up, was like people like Dameon Pierce, Zach Charbonnet, Rashad White, they're all going ahead of Aaron Jones. And I suppose it's so people can get 2 or maybe 3 years of like running back 2 performance. I don't know about you, but I'd rather the 1 year of running back 1, top 10 running back performance, than 2 years of running back 2 or 3 years of running back 2. If I'm trying to win this year, I'll take the running back 1 performance for that 1 year over those guys all day long. And you're right, he's seen 72 targets last year from Aaron Rodgers. I expect that to go up again this year with Jordan Love. So I think Aaron Jones, injury aside, I think he's pretty much locked in as a running back 1, because AJ Dillon came on a bit last year, but I don't see him being too much of a threat for Aaron Jones. I think they can both kind of coexist and both do well, but Aaron Jones, king of the castle a little bit there.
Yeah, I think it's a great pick. You alluded to it there, and the Packers offense, there is a hell of a lot of young pieces on offense, including the quarterback and the wide receivers and tight end. So the one person, the veteran there is Aaron Jones, and I think he is going to be the guy that's going to the offense is going to run through, as you said, Rich. I just hope Paul Pickin is listening to this show, because he's fading Aaron Jones this year. He's unplanted his flag on Aaron Jones, and we all sort of had to go at him for it, and yeah, quite rightly so. So I'm really glad you picked Jones. Certainly a guy that I'm not fading.
That was about 80% of the
there's-
reason I picked him.
Yeah, there's no better endorsement than Aaron Jones than Paul Picking feeding him.
Oh, Paul Picking, poor guy. But yeah, Aaron Jones. I mean, just from a talent point of view, from how efficient he was early on his career and to now, it's been excellent. Like some of that is obviously Rodgers being part of the offense, that threat, but as well, talent-wise, he's brilliant. AJ Dillon, he's been breaking out potentially every season, but he's never done it. Aaron Jones has been the man in Green Bay. He's been excellent. So agree with everything that's been said. I think there was some great points made about potential pivots. Imagine you're a contending team, you're running back two, Damian Pierce or Rashad White, like potentially decent running backs. Rashad White's obviously got is a bit of a mystery bag as what it could be, but yeah, why hold that risk? Pivot down to Jones. Maybe you get a second on top, you give a third away, and yeah, Aaron Jones, like he's what 28 going on 29, but he's not always been a bell cow sort of guy. He's always split a backfield. Jamal Williams, AJ Dillon, and plus he's a really good touchdown scorer as well. So I know Dillon gets hyped for being a big dude, but Aaron Jones is a sneak good around that goal line as well. So another great pick, Rich. You get the full endorsement from us, three guys here. Get the thumbs down from Paul Picking, but we don't care what Paul says on this one. So yeah, we're going to move on from one dreadlock guy to a guy that I prefer with dreadlocks, even though his fantasy performance does go up and down a little bit when he cuts them off. So we're going to move to wide receiver. Rich, who's the guy you're tagging?
Yeah, I think if we're talking about players to target to win a title, you're always looking for upside. And I think if you can get a wide receiver that his ceiling is wide receiver one overall, let's be brutally honest, the value that he's going, it seems amazing. So yeah, Mike Williams is my next guy. Wide receiver 40. Let me take you back to the first 6 weeks of 2021. This was, Cooper Kupp going absolutely mad, having record-breaking seasons. Mike Williams was the wide receiver 2 through 6 weeks. Like that wasn't that long ago. We're talking about 22 months ago, and yet everybody seems to have completely forgotten about it. The Chargers offense was a complete tire fire last year. Justin Herbert played basically the whole year with broken ribs. Keenan Allen was missing. Mike Williams missing. I think I've read somewhere that they played 70 snaps with Herbert healthy, Rashawn Slater, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams all on the field. Like that's basically just over a game. I think that this offense healthy is going to be fantastic. I think you then throw in Kellen Moore, and I think this whole offense is going to take a big step forward. And if you're looking for the guy that's got the most upside, you want elite quarterback, elite offense, and a proven ability to score fantasy points. Well, Mike Williams ticks all three of those, and I can get him as my wide receiver 4 based on current value. Like, if I'm looking boom bust players, absolutely Mike Williams. Yeah, he might sit on the end of my bench, and I never feel comfortable sticking my starting lineup. But he has got week winning potential every single time he steps on the field, and with the new offensive coordinator, and hopefully, his ADOT has declined 3 of the last 4 years, partly due to the fact that Justin Herbert's scared to throw the ball downfield. I think that if we can see Kellen Moore bring that out of Justin Herbert and start pushing that ball downfield, I think Mike Williams could be in line for an incredible year this year, but hopefully a league-winning performance. Yeah,
he's certainly fallen to a place that is really interesting at wide receiver 40. He doesn't belong in that the sort of the players amongst themselves. But I think a lot of that, especially with Quentin Johnson being drafted to this team, a lot of people are now fading Mike Williams, thinking that he's going to be the odd one out. And obviously, a lot of people play PPR. They like Keenan Allen's safety that they bring. But now that Mike Williams is wide receiver 40, I think he's a guy that you can flex every single week. And even just looking at the start of last year, the first 7 weeks before he got hurt, he finished as wide receiver 13, 9, and 7 in 3 of those weeks. So 3 of those weeks he was wide receiver 1 pretty much. So that's helping you win that week, and that's helping you win championships or getting into the playoffs. So that's the sort of guy that I want. If you want the safety of Keenan Allen, that's fine. But if your build is that you've got safe players that have a floor, then Mike Williams is definitely a guy that I want to target for winning any single week, and especially when you get in the playoffs. Yeah, that's exciting to have a guy like that can help you win the title in that week.
All right, here, Mike Williams had that smash year in 2021, finished as a wide receiver 1. The issue is the rest of his career, he's been a wide receiver 3 or worse because he just cannot stay on the field. Even as we speak, he's slipped down the ranks and keep change cut. He's already moved down even more to wide receiver 43. So he is plummeting. But although that does sound, to me, that's really good value, there are people around there that I just trust a little bit more than Mike Williams, because I just don't think this guy can stay. Like, something about the name Mike Williams, Mike Thomas, these guys just cannot stay on the field. There's people close to him like wide receiver 39, Mike Evans, wide receiver 38, Keenan Allen, even though he's had his own injury concerns. I think I would feel safer with guys like that on my team, and I think there would be people I could put in my flex spot ahead of Mike Williams, just because I feel sorry for him. I just don't think the guy can stay healthy, unfortunately. Even though when he's on the field, he's just an absolute hoss. He's amazing, but just seems like he's got the case of the Michael Thomases as well. He just can't stay healthy.
Yeah, I think it's nice how you mentioned Mike Evans, which is Ali's favourite player of all time, which obviously if he goes down injured this season, that's on you, Max. But to Mike Williams, I think, yeah, in terms of range of outcomes, boom bust sort of player, he's a guy that at wide receiver 40, he can have that period of a season which can win you a ship down the stretch, or can put you in a 1 seed, which ends up catapulting you and getting you that bye, which is massively important. And a lot of people don't realise the value of that bye, how much it increases chances in your league. So love the offense, love the situation. It's potentially going to be better than when he had his mega season as well, with Kellen Moore there and fully healthy Justin Herbert as well now, fingers crossed. I think my concern being a Quentin Johnson fan is if he starts to progress in the second half of the season like rookie wide receivers do, that's got potential to eat into somebody's value, whether it be Williams, Everett or Allen. I can see something happening there. But like you mentioned, shooting for upside, wide receiver 40. Would you be shocked if Mike Williams has an outstanding season and he's a lot better than the people in that range? It could be a little bit like that Miss Poland picture that's doing the rounds at the moment, where somebody's photoshopped into the back. It could look like that with Mike Williams, where he's being photoshopped into where he's in the ranks. But again, the flip side is he could be injured again and finish as a wide receiver 3-4. A lot of it will depend on roster build, but I think he's someone that if you are shooting for upside, there's potential there, just hopefully doesn't get injured. We're going to keep at wide receiver now. We're going to speak about a guy that's not been on the field for a while, but it's not because of injury. Who we got, Rich?
Yeah, I told you I was high on the Jags offense, and we're going back to the well. So yeah, Calvin Ridley. Look, I think people forget how good he was. This is a guy that last time he was healthy, last time he was on the field, he was a top 5 fantasy receiver, dynasty receiver, everything. He is one of the best, if not the best, route runners in the league. He can get open at will. And I think that him meshing with Trevor Lawrence is just going to be absolutely phenomenal. I've been screaming for the rooftops for the last year that he was an unbelievable value and, guaranteed to rise in value and ADP. And he has done exactly that. He has risen in value. And he's still at a point where, this is a guy that in most best ball formats, whether you're playing underdog or DraftKings, is a second round pick. And yet we're still seeing him as a wide receiver 3 in terms of dynasty value. I don't care what format you're playing. Back to what I was saying earlier about 2-3 year windows. If you're playing 2-3 year windows, and Calvin Ridley, he's definitely going to be there this year. I think the Jags are going to lock him up. His contract runs out at the end of the year. I think the Jags would be silly not to lock him up at least for another couple of years. And I think that him tied to Trevor Lawrence is going to be dynamite. So yeah, I'm really excited about him. And I think the valuation of him at the moment is wildly incorrect.
I absolutely love this pick. Calvin Ridley is someone who, for years now, you've been able to go out and try and get him. And this is sort of, well, hopefully if all things go well, this is maybe another cautionary tale for like dynasty players out there, is that you need to jump on these buy windows, because you're buying a guy, you know, a year ago for what, if he's wide receiver 26 now, what was he then? Like way down, right? And he's creeping up. Guarantee you by the end of the year, he's not going to be wide receiver 26, right? He's going to be way above that. So there's still time to capitalize on a little bit of value, but you miss your boat if you've not bought him. You should have done it, you know, a year ago. You should have done it with the suspension. So whenever things like this happen to players like, I mean, I hate to bring like Deshaun Watson, if you're morally okay with doing it, Calvin Ridley as well, you have to kind of jump on board of these buy windows and take advantage of it, because you've now got a potential league winner for pennies on the dollar, and you can still get a guy like Ridley for maybe not pennies on the dollar. What's that? Quarters on the dollar, I suppose you can get him from now, but it's not quite as good as it would have been this time last year. Wide receiver 5 in 2020, playing with a better quarterback now, even though, you know, Matt Ryan was quite good back then, but Trevor Lawrence is different gravy. He's going to be absolutely slinging it at Calvin Ridley. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, the Jags absolutely smashed it in the trade for Calvin Ridley at the time. I probably questioned it, not knowing what was going to happen with Calvin Ridley, but I think they paid something like a fifth and a fourth, that could be a third, that could be a second if all goes to plan. Then I mean that's fantastic value for Ridley, who was elite. We have to say elite when he was on the field back in 2020. So yeah, I'm excited for this offense. I think it's definitely going to help Trevor Lawrence take the next step. And yeah, you needed to buy earlier, certainly needed to buy earlier. But once he was 26, I think, as you both alluded to there is still time to buy into him. I think the second he sees the field and has a good game, then that value is going to come back. And there's still just a little bit of uncertainty just because of the fact that we still haven't seen him for a couple of years. But the second we see him back on the field and people are like, oh yeah, he is still elite, then he's probably going to rise at least 6-7 places. So yeah, there's still a little buy window now, but you've kind of missed the big buy window. Yeah,
I think obviously this show is about winning titles this season, and Calvin Ridley fits the bill for me. I think it was great sort of points. I know that you was screaming out this for quite a while, Rich, about sort of rebuilding sides should lean in and lean into risk, go after players like Ridley that are going to see a rise in value when they come back. It doesn't have to always be by young players in Dynasty when you're rebuilding. It can be by players that are going to follow this sort of arc as well. Deshaun Watson is going to be another one that finally gets that spot once he starts showing on the field. But yeah, I think it's a really solid pick. I think he's in a great situation. I had concerns with how he would look and where would it fit between him and Kupp, but he's put on a great training camp. He looks awesome in pre-season. So I think, yeah, it's going to be a 1A, 1B for me to begin the season. But yeah, if he can get back to that sort of level that he was at before, which no doubts about it, age doesn't play a factor. He missed a year as well. So it'll be a lot fresher than most 28, 29-year-old wide receivers. I think a great shout. Sky's the limit. Like I mentioned on Lawrence, there could be games where they're heavily winning, but also they're a number one seed from their division, so they are facing some tougher games as well on their schedule that they face, that finish first in their division. So love that pick on Ridley at wide receiver 26. Question for you, just on the back of Ridley being a guy that dipped in value and then rose quite a lot, would you consider Jameson Williams someone that could do something similar as a guy that's missing time and rise? I know you're not a big Jameson fan, but is Williams that guy, or is it another guy that's potentially going to have a quiet sort of season to then pick up pace towards the end that you're tagging?
I really struggle with Jameson Williams. It's been kind of an ongoing conversation in our Discord over the last few months. I wasn't a big fan of Jameson Williams coming out. He was my rookie wide receiver 5. I didn't particularly like him as a prospect. So that kind of colours my evaluation slightly. I think that the difference between him and Calvin Ridley was that Calvin Ridley proved that he was an elite NFL wide receiver that could do it, knew how to do it, and could operate as a pro. The difference with Jameson Williams is that we're now going to get to probably the end of his second year without him ever truly putting it together. And that's me saying that I don't think he's going to come back from this 6-week suspension and suddenly put it together. The track record of players not producing in their rookie year, not producing in their sophomore year, going on to be fantasy studs is essentially non-existent. So I struggle to be someone that's recommending going and getting Jameson Williams, because I think because of his age and because of where he's at, he's still being held up as that kind of first round pick caliber wide receiver. And there's absolutely no way in hell that I'm paying a first round pick for Jameson Williams right now. I'd probably struggle to pay a second to go out and buy Jameson Williams. That's how low I am on him. And to me, I think they're like diametrically opposed situations, other than the fact they've both been suspended for gambling. Because I think that Calvin Ridley showed that he's a true elite NFL receiver, whereas Jameson Williams, yes, we know he did it in college. And all he did last year was he showed that he was fast and he could get behind the defense a couple of times, but he didn't show that he could consistently command the target share that would mean that he would need to be able to be a reliable fantasy asset.
Yeah, we heard it here first, folks. Jameson Williams is not a league winner in 2023. You also heard it from me, get off the terrace. We're going to move on to our final pick of the evening from Rich. We're going to keep it with the Jags, but we are sliding into another position. So who's your final target that you're looking to go after to win a title in 2023, Rich?
Yeah, the final Jags piece. I can stop talking about the Jags after this one. So yeah, it's Evan Ingram. I think that this is a guy that showed last year down the stretch, particularly, that he had a great connection with Trevor Lawrence. I think that there's the potential for him to, he's never going to probably break into that top 3, top 4 tight end point. But for me, after that point, it's much of a muchness. And I think he's a guy that, amongst everyone around him in terms of where he's going in ADP, he's got the potential to put up those elite seasons, as we saw last year, tight end 5. I think there's talk about whether there's enough targets to go around and what Calvin Ridley coming into the offense does. I talked earlier about how Calvin Ridley's, I think, going to be great stretching Trevor Lawrence, pushing the ball down the field, that 20-plus yard down the field zone. Evan Ingram saw 76.95% of his targets less than 10 yards downfield last year. Like, this is a guy that feasts on that. You can't even call it short to intermediate, because it's not even intermediate. That short area of the field, he's just get the ball in his hands and see what happens. He's not someone that the Jags are going to use stretching the seam. I think that's where Christian Kirk's going to slide in this year. And I think that Evan Ingram, where he's going in current value, he's got the opportunity to greatly outproduce his current ADP. But also, we're talking about, potential longevity at the position. He's going to be on the field for the Jags this year, next year. And with his contract, you can almost guarantee that he's going to be on the field for the 2025 season. There's not many tight ends that you can say, I can almost incubate their dynasty value for the next 3 years. So he's a guy that I'm very comfortable having as, if I'm not getting one of those elite few at tight ends, Evan Ingram's almost always my safety net.
Yeah, I was really interested to hear your take on Evan Ingram as a league winner. Our belief has always been, or my belief has always been, that you need to try and get one of the elite tight ends to be able to contend. There's very little of my teams that have won titles have had someone outside the top 6 or 7 tight ends. So perhaps he could be someone that could branch the gap and jump into that, especially with the fact you've got that contract there and he's now in an offense that we're saying is going to be elite. I just think Evan Ingram to me is someone that, if he's my tight end 1 on, and I feel like I'm a complete contender, I just feel a little bit nervous with that situation. I'd prefer to try, if I can, to capitalize off a big game, because there is going to be big games for Evan Ingram that is going to help win you a week. And we saw that last year. But I just think there's going to be some ups and downs as well. So I'd like to capitalize on a big week and perhaps try and bridge the gap and pay a little bit on top to get to one of the top sort of tight ends to give me that baseline every week. But yeah, certainly the talent is there. We've seen what he'd done in his rookie year, and we saw what he'd done last year. Adding Ridley to the mix is going to be interesting, so I can't wait to see how that works out early on in the season. But yeah, I think he certainly is someone. If you're going to say, is there a guy on the fringe of a tight end 1 that can vault up to be top 6 or 7 tight end, then Ingram has to be in the mix for me. But yeah, just a little bit cautious, should I say, with Ingram.
Yeah, I think we all know that Ingram's got that really good ceiling. He had that game, didn't he? I think just before the fantasy playoffs last season, where he scored like I think we were in a tight end Premier League. He scored 50 points. He took over the game. He was on my bench. I shit my pants, but I still won. But yeah, just I think best ball wise, excellent pick. Your lineup wise dynasty. I get it in the sense that let's imagine you're in a league. You've got another couple of contenders. One's got Kelsey, one's got Andrews, one's got Kyle Pitts. They're not going to trade you any of those three. So I think when you look, like you mentioned, Rich, round Engram, who's he surrounded by in the market? It's young tight ends, it's unproven guys who he will outscore this season. So I think, yeah, if you're in that situation and you needed someone just to give you points now, the rest of your roster is set. I really like the pick. I think he's tied in as well. So it's even though he's winning titles this year, he's going to give you a solid piece moving forward. I do agree with Ellie. I think you need to aim to get one of those top three, but I think Engram's a great fallback option. Maybe people will be scared about Ridley, Kirk, the target competition, etc. But yeah, I think it's still going to be a pass-heavy offense, and to be a top 6 tight end, you'd have to do a lot. He's going to get plenty of red zone opportunities in the Jaguars offense. So yeah, I think if you are going after a ship, you want to maybe play it on a little bit of the cheaper side, then Engram's definitely someone that's got to be a target.
Yeah, one thing I don't get about Engram is he obviously came out in his rookie year. He finished tight end 5 and everyone went crazy and talked about, oh, wow. And then since then it's been like, oh, can he get back there? Can he get back there? It'll be amazing if he can. He was tight end 5 last year and nobody said anything. Like, he finally made it back and no one gave a shit. It's so unfair for Evan Engram. Like, he's finally done it. He's back where he it was meant to be, and everyone's just kind of like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I think I'm with you, Rich. I think he's a great buy. If he finishes tight end 5 again, you're loving it.
Could finish tight end 3 as well. Never know. So yeah, thank you for who knows? I think Waller finished second once, didn't he? So I mean, talent-wise, I think Engram's got more talent than Waller, but that's just me personally. Please don't come after me, Tom, ex-Ravens player, or anything like that. Just it wasn't meant to be anything controversial. Speaking of controversial, though, we're now going to come on to the fantasy wildcard selection, where we're going to get Rich to pick his fantasy wildcard, the player that he believes will improve their dynasty value the most in 2023. So anybody that's been following the show a while may be familiar with this name. When Rich is picking a wildcard, who have you got?
So I'm a big believer in process over results. Okay, so my fantasy wildcard selection last year was Desmond Ridder. The thought process being that he was a cheap quarterback that I thought could get the opportunity to start. When he gets on the field, he's got great weapons. He's going to outproduce. It didn't work out last year, so stick to the process over results. Let's go back to the well. So I'm going Desmond Ridder again. I think that I love the Falcons offense. I think that if he shows enough this year that the Falcons are willing to commit to him and say, right, this is our franchise quarterback for the next 2-3 years, which I really think they're going to do, then I think immediately he becomes worth that, that any quarterback in Superflex is worth a first. And I think that he could vault up into the, probably around, as we were talking earlier, around that Geno Smith range of sort of QB 18 to QB 22. And that's a massive value gain from a guy that you can probably go and trade for. I mean, you can probably get him for a second in most leagues right now.
What's your thoughts, Max?
He's stunned.
I've been trying to figure out Desmond Ridder for a long time, and I'm still at square one. I gotta be honest with you. Every time I try to figure out what's going to be, I kind of second guess it. I think that the Falcons are going to run the ball a lot, but that's maybe the best thing for Ridder. Just keep it simple, keep it safe. Just check down passes here and there to Bijan, who we know is an excellent receiver of the ball as well. I would just maybe take it out of, can you remember sort of last year, the Bears with Justin Fields, that kind of slowly opened up the playbook? I know Ridder played a few games last year, but that's what I would maybe try and do, to slowly open up the playbook. Keep it simple, keep it easy. Don't put too much pressure on him. And yeah, you're right, Rich. If he ends up being a guy that's going to start, he'll be worth it first. So he's bound to fly up the rankings for sure.
Yeah, you're certainly braver than me, Rich, because my fantasy wildcard failed last year, and I certainly wasn't going to pick him again for this year. Yeah, we'll never mention him again. But yeah, Desmond Ridder, I think you've got a good argument here in terms of, I think that the Falcons will win the division. I think he'll do enough to secure that quarterback one role, and they could commit and give him money, at the end of the season. So I think from that point of view, I think, and if you look at the rankings, Keep Trade Cut has got someone that I don't particularly believe in, don't see the ceiling for. Kenny Pickett is quarterback 17. Now, Desmond Ridder, I don't think Kenny Pickett is much better quarterback than what Desmond Ridder is. With both of them, I don't see the ceiling. So for me, he could possibly get anywhere up to there. I mean, ultimately, I don't see the ceiling with Desmond Ridder. He's clearly in a very, very good offense with a lot of talent around him. But if you look at, obviously, he was a rookie stepping in. He only played 4 games last year, but he was, he's particularly quiet. 2 touchdowns. I think he had double the amount of fumbles or something like that. No rushing. I just don't see what the upside is with Desmond Ridder. But in terms of buying someone that you can buy right now that is going to be worth more in a season's time, which is essentially this is what we're talking about, then I think he's going to gain value from now to next season.
I thought you were going to jump in, Rich, so I just saw you giggling away there.
I really want to, but I've got like an hour in me to talk about Kenny Pickett and Ridder, and I know that you boys probably don't want me talking that long. But let's just say, Ali, I greatly disagree with you on Kenny Pickett, and I think that with Desmond Ridder, I think there's some rushing potential there, but it's also the weapons around him and the offensive scheme that I think is going to allow him to be fantastic for fantasy.
Yeah, so I'll have last word on it. Then I think, look, he's got Pitts, he's got London. I think the Falcons win the South. I think there's a great chance he gets the starting job next season. I can also see a situation where they may make it to the playoffs, suffering round 1, and think, actually, we need a bit of competition. Maybe they take one of the glutton of QE prospects coming out next season. That's just a dynasty theory point of view. I think from strategy-wise, I think his value is going to rise. So it'll be just interesting to see how far it rises and if he can claim the crown of getting the best fantasy wildcard selection this off-season. Before we jump off and wrap up the show, I just want to give a little bit of something back to Matt FF Dynasty. So obviously, Matt, he recorded with us for quite a while this off-season and for many years. He wanted to pick a fantasy wildcard selection as well. So he has made a selection. I've not told Mags or Ali about this, or Rich. So it's no surprise. He's picked Puka Nacua.
I was going to say, I bet it's Puka Nacua. I was going to jump in.
I nearly didn't mention it, if I'm honest, because he's terrible. He's going to have a great season as wide receiver 60. But best of luck, Matt. Hope it goes well for you. He's in a great situation with the niggling Kupp injury. But we just thought we'd let Matt have a pick as well, because he's done a lot of great work. So that brings us to the end of tonight's show, where we've discussed targets to help you win your Dynasty League this season. But before you go, Rich, please let the audience know where they can find you, what you're working on. Over to you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it, at Dynasty Island. The majority of my work is over at the Fantasy Sanctuary on YouTube. Tom and I have got an awful lot of stuff coming out in season this year. Go over, check that out. We're on Twitter at the FF Sanctuary, I think it is.
Yeah, just obviously, if you're following Rich, you'll be following Tom, you'll be following the Sanctuary. Please do that, pumping out excellent content all the time. Mags was on this week if you want to get a bit spicy. And I think you said something about four quarters in $1 on that show. And I saw the cogs going tonight for you, Mags, so that's where you picked it up. Yeah. But please do make sure you're following Rich, one of the cornerstones of the UK Dynasty community. So thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow and subscribe to us on X and YouTube at Fantasy Wildcard, at Wildcard Dynasty. We're switching our days. We're going to move to Tuesdays now. So join us for every show this season on a Tuesday. We're going to do DFS on a Wednesday. But thank you once again. Have a great evening, and we'll see you again soon.